A while ago, I had a buddy of mine tell me that they needed to make more income from their business. And so my response was simple. I was just like, yo, solve more problems. And he was like, well, I do. And I was like, well, solve more. And he was like, man, well, how much problems you think I should be solving? And I was like, I mean, that's really on you. First question is, how do people in your audience, how do they perceive the cost of not consuming your offerings? Like, what is the opportunity cost for them? How much does inaction cost them? And it was a hard question to answer. And I was like, I would start there. I would start there. If you can start to calculate how people are perceiving not consuming your offerings or not solving that problem, the primary or core problem that you solve, I would start there, because that means that you at least have some ammunition to get people to say, man, I at least need to search for solutions in this area, because they see it as being costly. The problem is a lot of people are trying to sell stuff that don't have a perceived, they just don't have a perceived value to it. Value comes from solving the problem. The perception comes from how they are viewing, or the lens that they're looking at the problem through. So if you're dealing with a bunch of people that don't really understand how, like, the size of their problems, certain problems, then it's going to be very difficult to sell to them. Like an example, I'm in the marketing and sales space. So if I have a discussion with somebody and I say, hey, you need to, it seems as though you need more leads and opportunities coming into your pipeline because you're not getting enough people to ask you for support. Then the next layer to that is, how much is each lead worth to me? Well, the leads are worth to me based off of, one, the percentage of them that I can close, and two, how much I'm able to generate from each one of them. So here's an example, right? Let me break this down in layman terms a little bit. Let's say I sell something for $1,000. If I get 1 out of every 10 people, or let's say 3 out of every 10 people that I speak to or that I reach out to, 3 of them say, hey, you know what, I'm interested. Out of those 3 people, 1 of them buy, right? I generated 10 leads, I got 3 appointments, and 1 person bought. Now here's where the calculations matter, right? If I hold that consistent, I made $1,000 off of 1 person. But the way that I view it is, I made $100 off of every lead I generated. Now hear me out, right? If that formula, or when that formula holds true, now the way that the lens that I view my business through is, I make $100 every time I generate a lead. I want to generate the revenue, but I have to look at it from a different lens, because if I don't, I'm most likely not going to see the lead generation part as a problem. You see where I'm going with that? So now, if somebody were to say, hey, well, how many clients or customers can you handle a week? Let's say I said 10, right? I could handle 10 a week. So that's what? 40 grand a month. That's $480,000 a year. In order to get those 10, I need 100 leads per week, right? So if somebody were to come to me and say, hey, Mike, I could get you like, 500 or 400 qualified leads every week. And they told me a price for that. They said, hey, it's going to cost $700 a week, right? $700 a week to do that. Now that's $3,000 or $2,800 a month. Now here's the thing. If I don't know the value of a lead, then the solution will always be expensive. Are you following me here? If I don't know the value of a lead or that phase of the problem I'm solving, then everything is expensive. So let's think about this, right? If I were to pay $700 to generate those leads, then that would be what was the number that I mentioned? 500 leads per week. What happens here is, if I were to get 500 and I close the percentage of them, just if I close 10 per week, That's what, $10,000? So the fundamental question becomes, would I pay $700 to make 10,000? My answer is yes. Everyone else's answer may be different. My hope, though, is that when you look at that formula, when you look at that equation, my hope is that it makes sense to you. But the only way it makes sense is if you're looking at it through that lens. You following me? If you have any questions about this stuff, hit me up. Also, I do have an ebook that outlines this in greater detail. So if you want to check that out, either one, comment the word art, or shoot me a DM with the word art, and I'll send it over to you. All right, peace.